Hi, this is Chris Terwilliger from TopDeck TCG, and you're listening to another podcast from Jackalmen Games.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
What happened?
Had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now.
How you doing, guys?
Thanks for being a guest on our second podcast, buddy. We're super excited to release this podcast and talk a little bit about what it's like to be a merchant in this galaxy here of Star Wars Destiny, and if the errata has changed in of your card sales or if you predict it might, and what are the most popular cards that you sell. So we appreciate you joining us today, and we're going to kind of touch base on those two subjects and see what else we touch base on here today.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will ramble from our two main questions here.
Oh, of course. It always does.
Yeah. So let's start it off. What's your most popular card, like the one that you cannot keep in your store?
As of right now, the card that keeps on selling out of stock a lot is Hondo. Hondo keeps on going out of stock every time I get him in.
Okay. Well, I can see why. I mean, he hasn't been topping recently, though. That's the thing.
He has not, but I have a feeling that a lot of newer players just like his interaction with the board and how he goes. He's a very intriguing character, so a lot of builds can work off him. He has a lot of partners like Poe and Yoda and different types of decks like that.
Yeah, I'm sure the neutral helps a lot with that. Yeah, he's probably the most versatile out of the Legacy set.
Yeah, he works really well. He hasn't found many villain friends yet. I know on the villain side, there aren't many special chaining connections that work well with him, but on the hero side, he definitely has some partners.
Yeah.
So when you're pricing out these cards, like for Hondo and things, do you look at any sort of data? Like, do you watch like eBay sales, similar to like what Ira Bell does with like her Hot 25? Or do you look at like other prices, let's say from like Cool Stuff or different places like that? Like, where do you go to try to find what these cards should go for, and how do you try to price this stuff out?
I take a combination of a couple things, actually. I definitely look at eBay and see how the trends are going with certain cards. That's like the main market where the average person likes to gauge on prices and such. The Chance Cube has a really good engine where they have a lot of different stores conglomerated together and giving you a nice spread of information on what the going rate is for a card and a good database of information for that. So I take a look at all those numbers and see where cards are, looking at the rarity, if it's a legendary or not, and how frequently they're being used in top tier decks, and all those things come into a consideration when pricing out a card.
So do you see anything that may be rising in price soon, or something that you predict may be rising in price, maybe due to some of the holocron updates that's been done with, let's say, the playing of, Maul Saber? I mean, Maul Saber is, I feel, definitely going to take a hit in its worth. What do you feel about that?
I do too. I don't know if it's the best 3-drop in the game at the time anymore. The errata removing its ability to be thrown back into the pool so frequently and so often did hurt it. In decks like Bulba 7th Sister or Bro TK, I really think that the Heirloom Lightsaber has a better slot in there with the redeploy and its constant numbers without needing the modified side matched with it. I think that weapon is a good substitute for that lightsaber.
Well, I agree. I mean, definitely playing Boba 7th and trying to learn more of the deck, and trying the do's and don't plays. I definitely find it harder because that deck can be very resource starved. I definitely find it harder to play Maul Saber now. Like, I literally took it out. Like, I was running 2 copies of it, trying to have that lightsaber pool my starting hand, try to have something like Well Connected or Truce to hit that third resources to try to play that. But now it's just like, what's the point? Like, you already have to try to remove the shields, and then you have to have the additional resource that you're hoping doesn't get mitigated. And it's just, there's that extra effort that you don't have a lot of money to play. So I definitely feel that, like, it would definitely take, like, I don't know, a 25% cut in what it's worth now.
Oh, definitely.
What was the last price you sold it for?
The last price I had it right now is $25, I believe.
Have you made a change since the errata came out?
I have not. I have not made a change. I still think it's a card that's popular, being that it's Maul, then it's a new set with legacies, and people are still trying to gather their one copy. Because I do believe the card is still good in certain decks. I don't know if we found the certain deck per se. And especially in Trilogies format, there aren't many weapons at the moment. And
Right.
with Galactic Qualifiers coming up and things of that nature, that weapon is still one of the top tier blue weapons to have in that your arsenal.
Yeah, it definitely will hold its value there. Yeah, Worlds is coming up, and in the Galactic Qualifiers, where we're going to see some play, Kevin and I, because we won't be able to go to Worlds, but we won't be able to go to Worlds, but we'll be at the GQ in Atlanta. But with Worlds coming up, I think a lot of people will still be playing it. I don't know. I feel that it's not as impactful as it was before.
I agree.
And then let's talk about running interference, man. How much does it go for on TopDeckTCG's website?
I believe running interference we're selling for $1 right now.
Ooh, is that price gonna change? Do you think?
Yes. I don't see that card being played really at all. I know it still kind of works in the Ezra Sabine deck because you still have the mono yellow, and it kind of fits in there for the one big blowout play. I really think that the Yoda Sabine deck is a lot better choice because you get to play 4-speed. And with 4-speed on Yoda, you kind of get to do that same cheat action, but in a more efficient way, and you can do it more repeatable than with the new errata. It's a one and done type of effect now.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you have any spot glosses? I haven't seen any, but do you have any spot gloss cards for sale?
I do not. I have not acquired any, and I have not been able to go to a GQ yet myself.
Are you interested in purchasing spot glosses off of players?
I am. It's a hard position to be in. I know the average spot glass is selling for, give or take, 150 to 200 to even 300, depending on which character it is. And with me being a store, I can't buy things at wholesale value because it would be kind of redundant.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a hard, dicey maneuver to try to get things less valued, being true to the person selling it. So it's difficult to acquire those.
Does your website have like an easy, like, I'm offering this card mechanic to it?
What are some of the filters and stuff that you have that's really user friendly?
The filters we have on there, you can search through, when looking for singles, you can search by price, by name, by set. We have all the sets listed out there. We have all the 2-player set on there, each of the individual actual set of singles and such. Other features that the site does have, it has a video gameplay and podcast archive where I host a bunch of the content creators' videos on there, and it's all listed out. So you can click on podcasts, and it'll give you a list of all the podcasts on there. You can click on Deck Tech and all the Deck Tech videos we have on there. Gameplay between standard and or trilogy, they're all filtered out. So you have a good arsenal of different deck types you can look through, and you want to look for Boba this. We have a great arsenal of different deck types listed out there.
So not only are you just an online storefront, you are also a hub for content too.
Yes. What we try to do at TopDeck TCG, we try to make it kind of a one-stop shop for new players, for veteran players who just are looking for good value, good cards, figuring things out, and then, all right, I just watched a video on Boba's sister. This is great. Oh, I don't have this, or this. Bam. The site offers good prices, and we can get you those cards to fill in those deck gaps.
One-stop shop, TopDeck TCG.
That's it, man. And you also have a good price on your rival set as well. I saw you marketing that a little bit. So it's $11.99 for the draft set, right?
That is correct, yes.
That is cheaper than anywhere I've ever heard.
Yeah, so far that is the cheapest I found it.
It's like $15 everywhere else in the universe.
Yeah.
Dude.
We try to please.
One of the things that you also offer a lot of the content creators is a promo code. So based on the content creators and the promo codes you have available, you're offering, majority of it's a 10% discount, right?
That is correct, yes.
So based on their content, creators that they watch and people that they follow, you offer that great discount of 10%, which is a big deal. I mean, if you're starting to stack up, a cart for $20 or $50, whatever it may be, I mean, that's a huge savings across the board. And, if we're looking for people that are trying to find, discounts at like cool stuff or something like that, there's not a lot of those discounts that exist. I mean, that there's some things that they offer
like
in waves.
Christmas sale or something. Yeah.
Yeah. like Christmas sales and stuff like this, but you're always offering this, really to the Destiny community. And that's really awesome that you do that. And we appreciate that, as you being kind of one of our sponsors there, we have that promo code that we have for all of our listeners and all the people who watch our streams and our Build Destroys, our Canteen episodes. And it's just awesome that you do that, because I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into managing the site, staying on top of the card pricing, keeping yourself competitive in the market, and to discount that down 10% across the board, that's huge. So we definitely thank you for that.
No, of course. With all the work that all the content creators do between the podcast, the gameplay videos, the Build Destroys, I mean, you guys put so much effort into the game, getting new players into it on the content you guys are viewing by the podcast. And it's just my way of giving back to you guys for all the great work that you guys do. And for the new players, the 10% discount is just an icing on the cake for all the work you guys do for the new players, to guide them to a place where they can get the cards they need, join into the community of Destiny that we all love, and just flourish from there.
That's awesome. That's pretty much just,
it's definitely a good idea.
That's what, Jackalmen Games is all about, building the community. And, right now we're definitely pointing them in the direction that we want them to go. And also the promo code is down in the bottom in this description of this video. It's been in every single one of our videos. Do you have any data on if our promo code was used at all yet?
I do have data if your promo code has been used, and it has been used multiple times.
Yeah. Yes. That's awesome. Okay. That makes me really excited. That means it's working.
It's interesting, to be honest. Those get triggers sometimes. A lot of times I get people who will say, "Oh, I saw you on there," even message me, and they're like asking me about card questions. "Oh, I saw you on, Double Blanks. This is great." And then they go check out. They don't use the code, and I'm like, "All right, I don't know what to tell you."
Oh, true. Yeah.
I've had that happen a numerous amount of times. I have a bunch of European people who have to contact me because I can't put European prices on my site for shipping and stuff, because every single country is different. So you're just like, all right, shipping to Australia is $28 with no tracking, and then shipping to Brazil is $16, no tracking, and then $48, and I'm like, I can't list that as options on the site. So when international people have to contact me, it's a whole other ball of wax with that. And sometimes they're like, "Oh yeah, I have a code," and every now and then they remember and they tell me and stuff like that. And
so basically, what we're finding out is that if you see the code, use the code.
Yes. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. And I even send out twice a month. I send out to all the people on my site who are subscribers. I send out an email giving people, reminding them, "Hey, all the subscribers, they get 10% off." And so even if you just subscribe to my website, you'll get an email notification of me twice a month, giving you another code, which is 10% off to go to the site and stuff like that, to remind people we have new articles, new videos up there. Come check us out. New sets coming out. Make sure you fill in your gaps on your sets.
Okay.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I need to fill in the gaps on my set really bad.
So what are some of the big challenges that you have with trying to stay on top of these cards? Is it, pricing? Is it dealing with the individuals themselves? Is it the, post office dealing with, pricing and juggling that? What is it? Because I don't know if this is something that you donate 100% of your time to, but I'm sure that there's got to be something that you think is the most challenging part of running an online store for Destiny.
Well, yeah, definitely. All the things you did mention are definitely things that are not challenging, but they make some bumps in the road and make things a little interesting along the way. Dealing with the post office is one. One of the main thing is there are many different people out there who sell cards. You have eBay you're fighting against. You have Amazon. You have all the different online retailers. So you're not just the single man in the pool. You're surrounded by lots of different people. So it's trying to make yourself unique. Why do people go to your site? Why should they care about you? And that's one thing that TopDeck TCG tries to do. It tries to stand out differently from other people who are selling the same thing. We have the videos on there. We have our deck list section where we try to list some of the top tier standard decks for the Worlds coming up. We just try to give different options for the site, so it's not just a one-stop shop that a lot of the other places have. We try to be kind of a everything in one little location, so we grab many people's attention, because that's one of the biggest hurdles that you're trying to do, is you are competing against all these people, so you're trying to get their attention, like, "Hey, look what we have over here." And once people see what we have, I have a lot of repeat customers. I have a lot of people saying, "Oh, we love your site. We love how these things are located here. Thank you. You shipped it so fast. We got it here. Everything was organized so greatly in the packaging. Cards were secure." All that's great. But once they get to me, I have that. Until they get to me, that's the struggle for the most part that I'm deal with on a daily basis.
So like when you're talking about this, it sounds like you know a lot about marketing. Do you have a background in marketing?
I actually do not. I actually have a communications degree in TV and radio broadcasting with a minor in theater.
How did that tutor into you running an online shop for Star Wars Destiny and like this awesome archive of videos and articles?
Well, it has to probably start back when I started playing card games to begin with. I started playing card games back in 1997 when the Star Wars CCG game came out by Decipher. Me, my brother, and my dad, we all started playing together as a group, and we went to our local card shops in upstate Albany. And that's actually where I met a lot of my friends I have today. Our little group was called Team Albany, and we played that game. And we were part of we played that game consistently for the good 4 or 5 years that it was out. We actually went to the World Championships, and me, my brother, and my 2 friends, Matt and John, are actually tag team champions at their World Championships. And my one friend, Matt and John, are both world champions in the Star Wars CCG game that they had there. So I've been
Hear that, ladies?
Yes. We've been playing card games like that, the competitive card games, forever. And even till to this day, I've dabbled in so many different card games, from Pokemon to Yu-Gi-Oh! To Dot Hack to Star Wars Young Jedi, Jedi Knights, Magic the Gathering, you name it, Raw Deal. I mean, I've tried and played every card game in existence. I love card games. So that aspect of it, playing the game and the business side, kind of worked hand in hand. I loved the interaction with people. I loved getting my collection to be perfect and managing that, and just having the store of the flow of the videos and the people and the articles. Just all that just came fluently with how my history was with playing card games and stuff.
I can see how playing card games can also give you many other skills. Like I've never ever thought of making a podcast and editing audio, but here I am recording one and editing audio, and it's just so cool how it lets you step into things that you've always wanted to explore but haven't gotten a chance to. And it's just like a really good reason.
I remember when I first started into Destiny, and I've been playing Destiny for less than a year, I think, at this point, getting close to a year probably. And when I first started, I remember seeing TopDeck, and I'm like, what is this website? Like, at first I was like, they sell card singles, but they have it's like a website that promotes like all this stuff that I'm interested in. I'm like, here's all these content creators. Here's everything that I need to be able to play the game. There's deck lists. There's, people that are streaming this game, and, people that are actually recording videos and doing coaching sessions. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of good stuff here. And the fact that they sell cards, it's like literally you just go to one place, like everything you need is right there. And then between following your social media stuff that you have, it's like, everything's there. It's like it's very easy. So that's definitely a good idea, and that's definitely something that a lot of other people are not offering, and it's definitely got a leg up on the competition there.
Well, that's one of the main reasons why I really wanted to work with the content creators and sharing their stuff on Facebook, because whenever anybody shares something on their Facebook feed, it pops up in your feed, and then it pops up on your friend's feed. And we all love Star Wars Destiny. And if you're fans of me and you're seeing my video, maybe some of your friends play card games, play board games, play any type of interacting game. They see that video and go, oh, what's this? What's this Jackalmen Games video going on here? Oh, I know who those characters are. They click it, they watch the video, like, oh, this is really cool. I see the dice, I see Luke, I see Chewbacca, this is interesting. And then they learn. And then right there, maybe we hooked another person into the game that we love. Because the game doesn't grow without new players. The game doesn't flourish without new players. If we just stay with our 200 people who love and play this game, it's not going to go nowhere. And it's not like we don't want this to be at top tier. Everybody, we want us to be the number 2 game, the number 1 game. We want to fight against Magic, because that means we have that many thousands of players. And it's not a competition of we're trying to be the best. At one point, we just want to play the game. The game is just fun. I mean, half the time I build decks, I'm not trying to see how fast I can mill you in 3 turns. I'm not seeing how many times I can action cheat this. I'm saying, I got Chewbacca and Han Solo. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a good afternoon. Like, let's have some fun. And that's the part I love. I love that you can put the characters that you interact with in the card game that you're seeing on the big screen, And that's the part about the game that will draw new players into the game. They'll see the videos, they'll listen to the podcast, they'll see these cards. They're like, I love this. This is awesome. It's got dice. It's got the cards. There's a lot of thinking. There's math. You're strategizing a lot. You're playing what I always call, you're playing a card game, chess game. You're trying to figure out the pieces on the board. How does this interact with this? And just that aspect of every time you sit down with this character combination or every new character, it's going to be a different game. The dice are going to show up differently. The cards in your hand are going to show up differently. And that's what draws you into this atmosphere. And because it has the theme of Star Wars right there, that's going to grab so many other people. And that's what we're trying to do with everything.
Yep, because the game isn't going to grow without people to play it. And I don't know if we'll ever get to be the number 2. Like, I don't mean to be a downer. Like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and
Our goal is to build a genuine community, though. You know what I mean? A community that's not salty, a community that's not, self-destructive, like, a community that's in unison and balanced, just like the Force in Star Wars.
Oh my goodness,
it's one of those, but it is. It's
yeah,
true.
you're true,
you
though.
know what I mean? It's like, and that's what makes it fun. And like, and just like what Chris was saying, there's when you do these, when we do like our build destroy episodes, for example, we're building quick builds at the top of our head, stuff that we're going to put together, and then we may discover that hey, this is kind of a cool pairing, and it's something that you're not typically going to put together to be competitive, but something that you're going to play and have fun with, and then you get to see what your opponent builds and you play on it, and then there's so much that we talk about before and after recordings that we're like, oh, we should have added this, we could have done this, and then it like makes it fun. It's like, oh my god, I'm like hyped up to try this new like Han Leia deck. I'm hyped up to try to see if I can make it work. And one thing that Destiny has taught us is that it's not just about the deck list. It's really not. It's a lot about, your choice of character pairings and play style and just putting those reps in, playing it over and over again. You have the odds and the chance of the dice. There's a percentage that you're playing against also. So you're mixed with this percentage, trying to use that percentage in your advantage. And, the more you play it, the more you learn and you get familiar with the deck. And that's what makes the game fun too. So it's like, it's not that the deck sucks. There are decks that are just terrible pairings. And you'll know that like right off the rip. But it's more of like learning the build. Like I've gotten beat so many times with bad decks, and I've played good decks that I've played for a long time. It just depends on the roles and depends on the play style. But
I feel like actually, you know what? This is a brain idea for maybe a future article, but I'm gonna tell you what I'm saying, what I'm thinking right now. Is that there's like tiers that you master a deck on. First you're like, oh, I have this general idea. And then with more reps, you figure out like, okay, this is what I need to mulligan for. And then once you reach that plateau, like there's this huge spike in your gameplay of the deck. Like now I know what to mulligan for. And then you figure out, okay, where do I want to focus my upgrades? And that's another huge spike of your gameplay when you figure out where to focus and who's the better character to make your big bad. And then, there's another spike as you figure out how to mitigate and turn sequencing for that specific deck. Like, I feel like the more you play and the more you figure out these 4 core things, you just get so much better at a deck. Sorry, we're way off base here.
No, we are right on topic. We're talking about Star Wars Destiny.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, the name of our podcast is just a Star Wars Destiny podcast.
As Mr. Chip would say, this is the section where we talk about cards and dice.
That's it. Got it.
But to branch off to what you were saying, that is one thing, that one trend that a lot of card games do, where we'll talk about Magic for a second. In Magic, they actually produce bad cards in their set, or what they call generic cards in their set of each set, and then they have stronger cards, because every time a new player opens that pack, looks at the cards, they're not going to know the difference right away until they physically play, go through the motions, play X, play Y, figure things out. And as they go, this guy has no game checks. This guy has game checks. Okay, so this is a better card, but they need to learn that themselves and go through the motions, lose games, figure things out, learn from people. If they only see good cards, they're never going to know the value of why is this better than this card. Like if you just say, here's 30 good cards to a player, they're going to say, okay, these are 30 good cards. But if you hand them half bad cards, 15-50, and they have to learn from themselves, oh, so I see why this is better. I see how this is good. That's how a lot of card games design their game. You have to have the learning curve so new players can learn with you and learn as the curve goes up. I believe it was something that Lucas said in an interview with where a lot of times the cards they design that are a little more confusing, that have a little extra step to them, they normally put in the legendary spot, because when a new player buys a pack, the likelihood of them getting that card is very unlikely. So they won't read it, they won't get confused by it. That's why a lot of the legendaries like Zeb and Tarkin, they're not confusing, but they have an extra step to them.
Right.
For new players who don't know the motions of the game. So they put them in the legendary spot. So when you get to that point, you understand it better. Opening a pack, you can see what the more generic characters do, and that helps with the learning curve.
That would make sense of why some legendaries like aren't very useful, but they're a legendary because of their, text. You know what I'm saying?
Or they're a 6-sided die,
Right.
like Rebellion Leader. That's a 6-sided die,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And Grand Moff too. Like when you rip those out of your box, you're like,
6 sides
okay.
with some, I guess more intricate text. It could be a little bit more intimidating, and you don't want new players pulling a bunch of intimidating cards because then it discourages them. They want to keep that sense of discovery in the game.
Also want to think of draft. You got to think about how frequently do you want to see this card in a draft game now that the new set Legacies is one of the first sets that they designed. I think the first set they designed based on the draft mechanic. A card like Rebellion Leader, if that was a rare, you sometimes see that 2 or 3 times if you're opening up a box and drafting with 8 people. That's not a kind of card that you want to see in that slot. So sometimes they want it in the set still, but not that frequently. So they bump it to the legendary spot to prevent that.
The most fun I have with this game is when we draft. I feel like that is always when I'm completely enjoying Star Wars.
I mean, it puts things at more of like a equal playing field because everyone's got the same amount of money invested at the time. It's going just by a sense of chance, what you're going to pull. And then it also lets you plan, it's essentially, that's kind of what Build, Build, Destroy kind of is in a way. It's like that sense of discovery and, you have to quickly put something together with choices. And it's kind of like a way of drafting, but, not, you know what I'm saying? And that's what makes, I think, Build, Build, Destroy so fun. And what makes draft so fun is like, I'm trying to build something that's typically not something I'm going to go after, but I'm going to try it because I really don't have much to lose. Let's just do it and have fun. And, and everyone's on the equal playing ground. Just like in TTS, everyone has access to all the cards. No one's limited to just what they've paid into it.
They all bought TTS, so that's how much money they have into this game right now.
And I think that's why it may be a little while until we actually see like a commercialed version of, Star Wars Destiny, similar to like, duels and things like that they have for Magic, because we're all used to playing this game already for so long with all the cards that we don't have to worry about unlocking or paying, and we already do like online tournaments, what I'm saying, with prize supports and things like that on TTS. So, all that stuff exists that I think even if there was a commercial version of the game, not to like switch subjects, or go down a different, path, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think it would catch. I really don't. But it would be cool to have like a Galactic Qualifier type thing where people can like, play this game that they've purchased, and it like gives them tickets they can use to purchase for other things, in Destiny.
But would it be digital unlocks then, or would you want physical unlocks? Like, I played this game I got 100 wins, and now I have this spot gloss Zeb. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think they should do something like that. Like, you just, grind for, tickets, and then you'd use those tickets to purchase whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the same thing that Magic the Gathering Online does. They do it by set. If you can collect every single card, one copy of a set in Magic Online, you can redeem that, so it'll get wiped from your account, and they'll send you a physical copy of that set.
Which, that actually reminds me of something I wanted to ask you. So, Chris, on your website, do you have or will you put something out that is a complete collection of the sets, whether that's 2 of everything or 1 of everything? Do you have or will you ever offer anything like that to actually purchase like a complete block or a complete set for X amount of dollars?
That is something that we have thought about in the past. We have not seen a lot of interest in that recently. A lot of times when I've spoken to players and other customers, they were more looking for specific cards more than the whole set. I haven't had many people say, I'm looking for this entire thing. They're mostly, I need these 4 cards to finish off this. Because a lot of times people come to Top Deck after they've gone to the local store and bought a few things, and I'm usually the filler at the end when they're filling in their cards or their deck or something like that, or getting what they need to finish off their deck. for the most part, I haven't had much of a request for completeness of anything.
Right. I just thought that was always a good idea, and I've never done it myself personally, just because I am playing drafts and I am playing at locals, and I'm winning packs and things like that. So like, there's not really a big need. It's more of like a fill-in.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know if that's something that the market's kind of demanding, or if it's still singles. And I always felt it was still singles. So you would agree that singles is just the way to go right now?
Yeah, that's what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and you sell boxes, right, of the set?
I do not sell boxes of the set. I do not know.
Okay. Because
just the card singles.
Just the singles,
is that
yes.
something that you think you might be able to move into eventually?
That is, when you are allowed to sell boxes, you have to have a physical retail store to do that, and I do not have that. So I don't have access to get them to do that.
And that's all Fantasy Flight's rules, right?
I believe it's Fantasy Flight rules / with the distributors of Fantasy Flight product. I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
I see. Stuff like this, it's like you have to do things and just see where it takes you.
Yeah, that's true.
It's about the journey. You know what I mean? It's not about really the end. It's about the journey to do it, because you don't know what things are gonna take you to. And we don't know what Star Wars Destiny is going to take us to, but it's one of those things where you just use it to explore other content. Like Chris, he's been playing every card game out there, and that's a big deal. I mean, there's people that care about these strategic games. It exercises your mind. It gets you away from the computer screen. It gets you in front of people, because tabletop and card games, man, they're the best to play in person. It's way better to play in person than it is on TTS.
I agree.
Your dice don't do funny things. You don't like delete your deck on accident. Dice actually roll like things other than blanks all the time. Like, I actually win a lot more. just things are just better.
It's having the dice in your hands, like having the dice. It's all about that.
I think everyone agrees that like one of the things that also pulled us was not only Star Wars, but the fact that there's dice. Like, everyone loves dice.
The dice factor adds in that chance factor. So even if you don't think that you are the best player in the world, and you're like, I can never beat player X and I can never do it, but because there's dice, I feel like I'm watching the little giants over here. There's that one time your dice could roll hot, your dice could do what you want, and it always gives you that, this could happen, I'm going to win. So it adds that excitement for both sides of the
It does, but it also allows you to where, like, if you're a competitive player and a strategic player, it also doesn't make it to where like, oh, anyone can win this game. It's not fun anymore, because as a competitive player, you learn to like include certain cards because of this, and include certain cards because what majority of the decks are that are being played. Flank's going to work better because you're going to be running this 3 character pairing versus everyone running a 2 character pairing right now in the meta. So that's your leverage, and I think that's a lot of why vehicles did so good for so long, and you don't see them as much right now, is because there's that big surprise element that being a competitive player, you're like, man, there's definitely an area for this to do really good right now. And then as soon as people caught up to the plays and what you're trying to do, it's like, okay, now it's not as impactful as it was, because people know how to work around it. And that's what makes this game so great, is like, new players can be good at it because of the chance, but competitive players can be great at it because they understand the meta and they understand how the game works.
I agree. Planning for that chance is something that is what sets that difference apart right there between the new and the older player and the more experienced players. It's saying, all right, I know there's variance. I know what's going on here. What's the best play in this scenario? And figuring those avenues out and planning for the next step and planning 2-3 steps ahead is what makes the game so much fun. It's like I said, playing the game of chess on the board. It's always, I'll move here, you move there, you do this, and playing that game, planning that board is what makes the games just so much fun.
My problem is as I've been really trying to focus on just getting better at the game, I've been overthinking way too much. Like, I'll think too much into it, and it's like, oh man, my play is taking too long. I need to hurry up and think about this. And that's one of the things that just I definitely think will get better over time as you learn to play more.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working it as a team.
But I've been trying to definitely work more at thinking things in sequence. All this stuff that Sugi and Rebel Gray put out, actually like taking it to heart and actually working on it, and it definitely helps. But it's like you have to definitely train your mind to go more after instinct once you've developed the strategy.
one of my techniques that I did is I wanted to play mill. I was in all of our videos. I was trying to do like Afra Quinlan Voss, and I was like trying to do these oddball pairings with this oddball end game or win condition, and it just wasn't working for me. And I took the step back and built a deck that does one thing and does one thing really, really well, which is the Boba Phasma deck, and that is really good at pew pew. So
Yeah, and doing it
and it
fast.
does it really quickly. Yeah. So it definitely takes a lot of that. You always talk about, like, in our own personal life, you talk about decision fatigue.
Yeah, that is definitely a real thing.
So it is. It really is. And from a teacher standpoint, like, yeah, it really is.
So, and where that came from is, like if you listen to like business coaches or life coaches, is like, if the more you can do things in your life, and even like when you're deck building and things, the more you can do things in your life that don't involve a lot of decisions, it leaves your brain available to handle the things that are worth thinking about. So if you're like thinking about like, hey, what am I gonna wear in the morning, and which car am I going to drive, and what am I going to pack for lunch, and all these things. As soon as you learn to automate certain sequences in your life, and even in like certain games and board games and card games, as soon as you learn to automate as much as you can, then your brain is charged and ready for the competitive thinking or the competitive plays. So the more you can synergize a deck to do things without having to really think hard about it, when it comes time to like think about 2 or 3 plays ahead or 5 plays ahead, or learning more about the meta and what's in their hand or whatever, your brain isn't so stuck in this fatigue of like, man, this deck's so hard to play because there's so many different options. Does that make sense? I mean, to me, it kind of does.
It does.
Yeah. And I think that's what, you discover there, Kevin, was that like, the more you can simplify how the deck runs to make things smooth, it leaves you available, and it makes that decision fatigue no longer there to think about what's in their hand and how to play certain things.
Because once you get to the bigger events, like more than just a 4-round or 3-round locals, once you get to the regionals, once you get to the Galactic Qualifiers, once you get to Worlds, those are like 9-round days, possibly, or 2 9-round days, depending on how well you do, and the more choices you have to make, the more tired you're going to get. And also, it's 35-minute rounds. You got to go quick. Sometimes they don't give you breaks, but that's usually a player vote. Because when we were in Miami, it's like, you want a break? Everybody's like, no, let's keep playing. And I was like, I could really use the bathroom for a while. I need more than just 10 minutes in between rounds. But it just... Yeah, the more you can cut it down to, this is what my deck does, and this is what it does super duper well, and you can't stop me from doing it, and I understand the mentality behind my deck, so I'll keep playing for that one thing, you're going to have a way better time being successful. So
yeah, I agree.
So,
Decision fatigue, man. That's a life lesson for today.
if we talk about the deck that I ran at regionals, which was Po Yoda, that deck was just like in the heyday of special chaining, and I thought it was really cool, and I pulled 2 Yodas, and so that's why I built it. But like, you need to make a lot of choices. Which die do I flip? Which Yoda ability do I use? Like, there's a lot of choices with and then I wasn't winning a lot. And then I switched to Boba Phasma, and my win percentage has gone through the roof. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just feeling good, or the dice are really good. It's just, there's a lot of things going on. But I feel like simplifying everything has helped a lot.
Keep things simple. Don't try not to, waste your brain activity on these, normal plays that you're going to have constantly. And
because that Asajj Quinlan Voss deck may seem really cool because it has good synergy in one way, but you're going to be thinking a lot for that deck.
That is one aspect a lot of times I see a lot of new players doing when building decks, is they try to throw in their deck a lot of different cards that they think are really good and they think are really cool, but don't synergize with each other. So having that one specific game plan for the deck, like when you sit down and you even build your deck, what am I trying to do here? Am I milling? Am I controlling the game? Am I mid-range? And then building your deck towards that, because it'll make your decision making a lot easier, because you're like, my game plan is to do this. And then your other thought process, how am I stopping you from doing certain aspects? So having that's one thing that I see a lot of times, that players, when building the deck, they kind of do too much on one side or something like that.
And I feel like that is a problem from other games because, okay, experience only being Yu-Gi-Oh! So Yu-Gi-Oh! Talk is you wanted to have multiple win conditions.
And Magic is the same way.
You wanted to have, like, I could do this to you, or I could do this and I will win the game. Like, you wanted to have that, like, 1 or 2 thing. And so I came into this game and I was like, okay, if I build Quinlan Afra, I can mill you out, or I could out damage you. But I couldn't pick, so my deck was like half one thing, half another thing, and then I would get both halves in my hand at the same time, and it just crumbled apart, and I was just being a stubborn mule and kept trying to make it work. And then, I feel like with Destiny, you need to have one win condition. One really defined, fleshed out win condition, and keep working for that.
That's how I feel. I feel it's going to be the most effective. It's like, for example, we're talking about Boba 7th, and on our stream, we're like, Boba 7th would be cool if you could almost do something with it ranged. And, you look at the sides and you see that, on Boba, you got the 2 ranged and the 2 melee. And on the 7th, you have your melee sides, and you got to focus with the droid. And, you see that you can run these quick things to speed up the deck, because that's one thing that, Boba 7th doesn't have a lot of is speed. I feel, it's got the health and it's got the massive sides of damage, and you can run the good mitigation, for the most part, but, it doesn't have a lot of speed. So the issue I was having was, Boba Phasma is very fast and it delivers a lot of damage and ranged. And I was like, it'd be kind of cool to speed it up. And then, we were doing something on stream to try to speed up a little bit more with range. And it's like, the more you complicate things, the less likely it is to work, because running range is just like, you're always stuck with the modified sides and the base sides. And that's one of the big things in Destiny is you have your base and you have your modified, in Magic and, in Yu-Gi-Oh! You didn't really have that. And you could build stuff around, alternate win conditions or whatever the situation would be. You had to remain focused like you do in any kind of like, deck building game. But alternate win conditions is, something that's, I don't feel very prominent right now in Destiny, and maybe later, depending on what they release. But focusing on your main strategy is where it's at.
Rock on.
Definitely. There are a few decks that I've noticed that right now in Standard that kind of take what we said and twist it a little bit. 2 decks that always stand out to me that kind of like to have both 2 things going at once is Tarkin, Seventh Sister. Whenever I play against that deck in particular, they're either damaging me a lot with the Tarkin power or the Seventh Sister and the dice, or Tarkin's double discarding me, and it's kind of like a mill deck and locking me out in kind of a control deck. I'm always stuck between that deck whenever I play against that one.
You're right. And it's really cool you brought that up, because I was just thinking about that. That's getting a little bit more popular now. We're seeing it. It is one of those decks that is, with the power action and things that he has, it's really cool, because it's like, ooh, I didn't expect that. Or, man, I just took some damage. Or is he doing damage or is he discarding? Like, now what do I do? Like, it confuses the player, or the opponent, I should say. And you're absolutely right. That is something that, I think Tarkin is like the only one that really does that. What was the other deck you're thinking of?
The other one I was thinking of was actually Hondo and Yoda. Whenever I've seen that deck play, it's a very aggressive deck with the special chaining and dealing with the light bows and Hondo's ability. But at the same time, with the fact that Yoda has the ability to dish out shields and stuff, I've always played against like where it's either turtling up and has lots of shields on their characters, or it's playing more of a mid-range deck where it's shielding up, dealing little damage, and just picking away at you as you decide where your money's going and stuff. Like, there's a couple decks, Yoda in particular, that can jump that fence of, I can go aggro. Oh no, we're just going to shield up, or get some shields and some money, and then I'll play things later. And he has the ability to kind of play the fence on aggro and mid-range / control decks and such.
Yeah, so Yoda was definitely there to kind of add like an additional variant instead of just focusing on just damage or focusing on just mill, or just building shields and tanking. So yeah, with Tarkin and Yoda, those are definitely those 2 characters that are set apart that do kind of throw that typical, balance out of whack. You're right. So you've been playing since the beginning, right?
Yeah, I did. I demoed the game at Worlds 2 years ago when it was there. Yeah.
Did you know it was going to be as big as it was now? Like, did you?
Not at all. When I demoed it, me and my brother both were at Worlds. We were playing X-Wing at the time there. We both said, "This sucks." It was the demo decks they gave you were not good, and the Kylo Trooper. It was a Kylo Trooper versus Rey Finn, and they were just the most generic decks. They had like 3 dice. You didn't understand what resource economy was, and you were just like, I don't understand what I'm doing. Take 2 damage, go. Like, it didn't make any sense. Like, the flow and the triggers and the cards that were in there were so very blah. So it didn't flow very well, and I really don't like the decks that they built to show the case that. I would have built totally different decks to showcase for the 2 little demo decks. But it was all right. I mean, you got the gist of it, and it just didn't seem right, but we were still intrigued. We were still like, something is here. Something about this is intriguing. And then, like, a month later, when they did the Destiny release day, my brother calls me up on his way home from work. Well, Destiny's at the shop. Are we getting any of this? Are we playing this game? What's going on? We love Star Wars. What's going on? I'm like, all right, let's go get a starter deck and some packs. And then from there, we started building our own different decks and different combinations. My brother, in his first 3 packs, got his favorite character, Darth Vader. And he's like, I'm building Darth Vader. Don't care. So he played his 1-die Vader, and we were just building things together. And from there, I was like, oh, I see how it is. And the fact that we played X-Wing and understood dice and understood the mechanics of re-rolling and understanding that kind of made us understand, once we saw more cards in the set, oh, I see how this card interacts. I see, okay. Because at first you see the dice and you're like, all right, that's one thing that sometimes players get confused on. They're like, oh, it's a dice game. If I don't roll well, I lose. No. Once you start playing the game, you realize you have a lot of control over it. There's mitigation. There's ways of tweaking your dice. There's ways of tweaking your opponent's dice. And once you got to understanding that there's that part of the game, it was great. Because in the little demo decks that they gave us at the thing, there wasn't any of that. So if your opponent just rolled well, you go, all right, I'm taking 6 damage. Cool. Like, you didn't understand what's going on. You're like, this is silly. I don't understand why I'm losing. And you're like, this is great. Like, there were no, like, removal spells in there. It was, like, really bad, like the ones they had in there. So once you saw more cards and saw more of the set, you're like, oh, I get it now. I like this. This is fun. And here we are now.
It would be so neat to be there in the beginning of, like, the discovery of this game. I think that would be super awesome to be there during that.
It was interesting because me, my brother, and our little group of friends from upstate New York, we've actually been, like I said, we've been playing the Star Wars Decipher game, oh my God, since 2007, almost when it came out. Like, we've been playing that game forever and still do today, a game that doesn't exist, really. But we've always been a part of different groups that did playtesting. The company Decipher actually was the ones who made the Star Wars TCG. They made Young Jedi. They actually made Star Wars Jedi Knights. And when the Jedi Knights game came out, me and my brother, you can actually Google us and find the articles that we wrote. We were actually playtesters for the game when the first set came out. Because we did so well with the Star Wars TCG, and they actually reached out to us and said, hey, we know you guys are the, quotes, Twigs, the Twig brothers and stuff like that, the Twig guys. Would you help us with this game? Give us some feedback on decks. You guys are really good at building decks and organizing the little tweaky things and combinations. So they sent us a case of cards, and they had us design and write a couple articles for their website based on that new game that they were launching. They were trying to launch a brand new computerized game. All the pictures on all the Star Wars cards looked like they were from a video game. And that's like the theme of the game was and stuff like that.
Wow,
That's awesome. I want people to send me stuff to test, right about.
Yeah. Me and my brother have always been, like, we've loved card games, loved board games. And speaking of that, me and my brother actually, about 4 or 5 years ago, Topps, the baseball company, they produced card games and board games. And through my brother's contacts, we actually got an interview with their vice president and pitched them an idea. We actually designed our own card game for them. It was based on a mat. You have your own 30-card deck, and we designed a card game that we were very, very close to getting produced. And they actually made at their factory demo decks and demo things to send out to people and have kids do them. And they had a whole like sensors thing go over them, and they gave us feedback on them. What kids were compared this game between Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, My Little Pony, which one did they like playing with more? And we actually took the skin of this, and they said, all right, if we made this game and it didn't really fit with Star Wars, what else could we do? So we actually made it wrestling. So the same game is a WWE wrestling game and a Star Wars character game. And it's played on a mat. You each have your 5 cards, and you play back and forth, yada, yada. And it's actually a game that we designed and sent out for them for testing. And they got it all the way up. The testing groups went really well. And actually, every year, they go to Lucas, the company, and say, here's the ideas we have that we want to brand with Star Wars. Which ones do you like? And now it's Disney, but before it was just Lucas. Here's the different games we have. Which ones do you like? And we can move forward on. Our game was in that pitch to go to them to try to get it off. We were not chosen, though, but we were close.
Wow. What a story. Well, thank you so much, man, for joining us for some content and helping us with this podcast, man. It's been really fun.
No, I'm excited you guys. I was able to help you guys out and do this. I hope my rambles made sense and it all worked out.
So thank you so much, Chris. It was awesome having you. Definitely go and check out his website at TopDeckTCG. We talked all about it today. And like, comment, and subscribe to Jackalmen Games to hear more podcasts monthly, see our streams, watch Build, Build, Destroy, and our cantinas. So hope to see you around. Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.